Hi. AI products like Chat GPT are dominating the airwaves at the moment, and GPT-4, version 4, was released last week to quite a lot of noise in the airwaves. I've been using version 3.5 for a few months now, and I thought I'd talk about my experiences with version 4. Version 4 is a significant upgrade in terms of the scale of the information that it's using to base its intelligence on, so-called. This video, I'm going to call it part 1 of 2 or maybe 3, walks through a chat on test design and Selenium, where I'm going to ask the tool to analyse a simple web form, identify input fields, design some test values, create some test cases, and finally a Selenium script to run those tests. Now, if you haven't tried Chat GPT 4, the link is below. But what I need to do is to spend a couple of minutes introducing it to explain how it works. If you've never seen it and all you've heard is the hype and nothing else, you need to know a little bit before what I'm going to do and show you and demonstrate to you makes a bit more sense. Now, if you like, it's a conversation. They're called chats, but I think of them as conversations, where the human operator, let's say, makes statements, asks questions and so on, and these are called prompts. The skill of getting the most out of ChatGPT is in the sophistication of your prompts. A lousy prompt, a lousy question will get a lousy answer, and every prompt has a response, but you can rerun prompts, and interestingly, you get different responses. So if you rerun the same question, you will get a different answer. I'll show you an example of this. I ran the session I'm going to show you, the longer session, 3 times. In fact, I ran it the first time and had a really interesting conversation, and then I tried to re-record it using the same prompts, the same questions, if you like, same information, and it went down a completely different path in the conversation. Still interesting and useful and exciting in some respects, but it's impossible to run a live demo and know where it's going to go, because you don't know what ChatGPT is going to tell you next, because you can't predict what it's going to answer. I mean, it's kind of very human-like in that way. You can't predict what other people are going to say. So I run it a 3rd time, and this time I'm going to just walk through that conversation. So you'll have to imagine me asking the questions and it responding, but it's a real conversation that I recorded a couple of days ago, and I'm going to walk through that for you. Ignoring the general advice to never work with animals and children, and I'm going to add AI to that list. I'm presenting now the screen when you log in to ChatGPT. ChatGPT 4 is an option once you're in the website itself. So what you can see on the left, I've got a list of chats, the recent chats that I've had with ChatGPT, a few options further down on the left. And it's a very simple interface. You choose your model, and there are 3 available. The default GPT 3.5 is the most recent version of the 3.5 product, and you can see it offers some suggestions as to the capability. Reasoning 3, speed, very fast it looks like, conciseness, not so good. The legacy version, reasoning is fairly good, speed, pretty slow, conciseness, not very good at all. 4, the most recent release, which I'm going to show you in a moment, reasoning is very good, speed, maybe not so fast, conciseness, much improved over the previous versions. So for the next few minutes, I'm just going to use the default. Now down at the bottom, we have a simple text box. It's like a chat. So in that respect, it's fairly familiar, I would hope it would be. I'm just going to go straight in and ask it a straightforward question that I've hinted at already. And I've just pasted it in. So this is live. I'm just saving a bit of time by pasting text in rather than typing it and not making mistakes. Why does ChatGPT give different responses if I rerun a prompt? Now you can see as it responds, it seems to kind of think about it, not very long, and then it produces the response at a very low speed, relatively. I'm not sure why they do this, but I guess it's because they've got 100 million users and they've only just got this system off the ground in the last few months. So maybe that's the reason. I don't know, is a short answer. But you can see that it's given a response. Chat GPT uses a deep learning algorithm, blah, blah, blah. The algorithm is probabilistic, which means that it can produce different outputs for the same input. And you could read this for yourself, but I just want to suggest that it's not consistent in what it gives you. Now, on the one hand, that's kind of interesting, and you could say, well, it's a bit human-like, you know. If you ask the same question to a different person or the same person on a different day, you'd expect to get a slightly different response. It's a bit like that. The problem is, if you depend on the response you got yesterday and try and regenerate it today, you can get into difficulties. There's a way around that, and that's something that will come out in the conversation a little bit later. Let's move on. Let me just ask it a very straightforward, factual question, and I'm going to pretend I'm a student and ask, what's the capital of Peru? Capital of Peru is Lima. I can edit and resubmit that, so I could change it. What is the capital city of Peru? It's the same question really, but let's see what I get. Well, no surprise, the capital city of Peru is Lima. So it gave a slightly different response, but I gave it a slightly different question. Let's move on. Let's make it do some work, so to speak. So here, I'm just asking, summarise the recent, brackets, 100-year history of Peru. Give me a potted history of Peru. And it's almost instant in terms of response, but of course it is a relatively slow presentation of the content. But you can see that it's giving you a relatively potted history of Peru over the past 100 years. I'm not going to dwell on whether it's correct or not correct or its sources or anything like that, but I'm just going to carry on the conversation. The history of Peru has been quite turbulent in the last 100 years. What are the major factors that have caused this to happen? Let's see what it comes up with. So again, it's almost instant in terms of the response. And it's giving a list of some factors which are relevant. Political instability, social inequality, natural disasters, internal conflict, external factors, and so on. So this is pretty good. I mean, again, I'm not a Peruvian history academic and understand anything. But my understanding is it's using the best it can find on the internet to source the content that it presents to you. Now, there's a whole question of trust and that kind of thing. I'm not going to go into that at the moment, but I just want to demonstrate that it appears to be a very useful source of information for, let's say, students who are writing papers for their degree classes, maybe. One of the recommendations for getting a good prompt to get a good response, get the response you require, is to almost give it a persona that it should adopt. So I'm starting this prompt, which is a bit more detailed, obviously, and it starts with, as a postgraduate student studying South African geopolitical history, write a 3,000-word essay on the history of Peru over the last 100 years. And I add some extra qualifications, things to cover, things to include. I could ask it, in addition, to write in a certain style. I could ask it to focus on some aspects, maybe the politics rather than geology or economics. I can influence what it produces depending on the prompt. So if I want to home in on a particular topic, I can do so. And again, it was an almost instant response. And here it comes, relatively slowly, but it's writing a short essay, or a long essay. Now, what I expect to happen, because I've done this before, is it will write about 300-400 words and then stop. I asked for 3,000, and I'm going to question it as to why it only wrote so few words. Although they're still going. Now you can see it's kind of paused, or in fact it's stopped. Now this doesn't happen all the time, but you should expect that if it's giving you a long response, that it will kind of run out of steam and pause, and you think, oh, I'll have to rerun the prompt to get another answer, to regenerate the response. But actually, when it stops like that, you can just type in continue, and it should pick up exactly where it left off. So it obviously constructs the answer at the server end, let's call it, and it's the transmission of the response, to you as the user that it trips up on. Okay, so I asked for 3,000 words, I think, if I scroll back up here. Yeah, I asked for a 3,000 word essay. Now, the last time I ran this, because I'm running this live, it told me it couldn't write an essay, it could only give me an outline. And it gave me an outline, like headings and bullet points, quite substantial. And it could have written 3,000 words if I'd forced it. I could have perhaps said, of the 5 chapter headings that you've given me, write 700 words on each one, and then overall it would have been a longer essay, I suppose. But you can see that the potential power of this, all right, for, let's say, students who want to write an essay in half a minute or half an hour, you could see that this could be incredibly useful. So I think academics and universities and all academic institutions are going to have to rethink how they get content from the heads of students based on their study, and not get stuff that's been generated by artificial intelligence. As a variation of what I just asked it, and this is, I came up with another prompt, which is this. If you were an advisor to a Western government, US or European democracy, write a briefing note using the outline above, because I had an outline last time, of 500 words for a Western diplomat visiting the Peruvian leader. I've demonstrated a 1/10 of a 1,000th of a percent of its capabilities. What I want to say in this little section is you can ask it anything. Now, if you ask something with a stupid prompt, a relatively inane question or an inanely defined question, you'll get a relatively vague response. But the more precise you can ask the question, the more precise you can specify the response you require, the better that response will be. So it seems to me that as the user of this kind of tool, this kind of AI tool, the better we can formulate our requirements in our heads and in a structured way, the better the response will be. And it's a bit like specifying the functionality of a piece of software for a developer, a programmer, to write. So you're still dealing with a computer, but the relationship between you as the, if you like, customer and the tool as the supplier, specification is everything. Now, the cool thing about having a conversation, which is what you really do have, very often it's impossible to get a perfect prompt first up, is you can refine the specification over a series of exchanges with the tool. So you could ask a very broad question, then home in and saying, refine the response, whatever you're asking for, refine the response to cope with this situation and that situation. Please include these keywords because I'm going to put it on the web and I want keyword search, I want to be have an improved SEO kind of functionality, and so on. You have a conversation to refine the prompt, and you might talk around the problem and simply refine the prompt over the course of several exchanges, and then say, go and write me a 3,000 word essay, go and write me a white paper, go and create an outline for a PowerPoint presentation, go and write some code. And all these things appear to be sensible tasks to give Chat GPT.